That's what I feel like doing. Since we just celebrated our nation's Independence Day a few days ago, I'd like for us to consider how we experience freedom. Personal freedom. Personal freedom. When India asked me about my talk title, I texted her and I told her, my talk title is Let Freedom Ring. And it has nothing and maybe everything to do with patriotism. That my talk would be focused on the third and fifth principle that unity is built on. But let's take a moment to review the 5 principles of unity, just so we have those clear in our minds. And then we'll focus on the third and the fifth. The first one is God is absolute good, everywhere present. This is about the nature of God. The second one, this one addresses our divinity. Human beings have a spark of divinity within them, the Christ Spirit within. The third one.
Could you repeat the second one, just the first few words you said?
Yes, this one addresses our divinity.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. Human beings create their experiences by the activity of their thinking. Everything in the manifest realm has its beginning in thought. Thoughts, feelings, and beliefs create our reality. And then the fourth one, prayer is creative thinking that heightens the connection with God mind, therefore brings forth wisdom, healing, prosperity, and everything good. We never beg God for anything. We simply ask for what we need and affirm that it is already a reality. This or something better. The fifth step is knowing and understanding the law of life, also called truth, capital T truth, are not enough. A person must also live the truth that he or she knows. The first 4 are about changing consciousness. The fifth is about changing our behavior, how we show up. The fifth principle for me reminds me of the 12-step program. In that, the premise that they work from is that you don't get to keep what you've been given if you don't give it away. It's just like muscles. If you don't lose them, if you don't use them, you lose them. Same thing. It's all the same thing. What we've been given in the principles of unity is knowledge and understanding of spiritual laws that govern our lives. Truth, whether we know it or not, that's what it is. The understanding and the knowledge. Spiritual laws work the same for everyone, whether they're on a spiritual path or not. Now, in some instances in this world today, that's pretty hard to see, but it does. Like it or not. It's much like gravity, which keeps us from floating off into the cosmos. Not just some of us, but it works for all of us. I haven't noticed anyone floating off into the cosmos recently. There really is only one presence and one power in my life and in the universe. God, the good, omnipotent. If I don't know another thing in this world, I know that with every fiber of my being. We are God's beloved children, and as such, we have a spark of the divine within. Thoughts held in mind create after their own kind. In prayer and meditation, we do as Jesus suggested when he said in Matthew 7:7, ask and it will be given. Pretty simple. My question is, are we, each of us in this room, are we using these principles in our daily lives, in our home, in our workplace, at school, at the convenience store, on 35 when somebody cuts you off, or when traffic is stopped completely? Are we living our lives from what we've been given, the knowledge and understanding of the spiritual laws that govern our lives? Are we walking our talk? Maya Angelou said, I've learned that people will forget what you said, people will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel. I believe that love, unconditional love, is the key. As I have worked on presenting this talk on these two principles, I have been reminded how closely connected they are, because as we are creating our lives with our thoughts, our feelings, and our beliefs, we are determining how we're going to live the truth that we know, how we're going to show up on a daily basis. I read an interview with Don Miguel Ruiz by a woman named Diane Marie Bishop. I'm sure that you're all familiar with Don Miguel Ruiz from his wonderful book, The Four Agreements. This man's life has taken so many twists and turns, two of which almost cost him his life. He was the youngest of 13 children and was raised in rural Mexico. His family had high hopes that he would follow in the family tradition and become a Toltec healer. But Miguel had another dream and chose to study modern medicine to become a heart surgeon. After an almost fatal car accident, which resulted in an awakening for him, he returned to Mexico and trained to be a shaman. When he began teaching in the United States, he became aware that people had difficulty quieting their minds. How much trouble, how hard is it for you to quiet your mind? Yes, I agree, Diana. This awareness was the impetus for his first book, which offers a practical guide to personal freedom. The whole point of this talk is personal freedom. At the height of his ministry in 2009, his health began to deteriorate after an almost fatal heart attack. In 2010, Ruiz received a heart transplant, and he is once again energetic and eager to share his message of the transformational effect of unconditional love and what a difference it can make in the lives of people. One of the biggest blocks to the personal freedom that unconditional love can bring is the search for perfection. Does that make sense to anybody? It does to me. Ruiz believes, and I quote, people look for perfection when their lives are not working the way they believe it should. That belief itself and the resulting search for perfection is the cause of suffering. Remember, the third principle, our thoughts, feelings, and beliefs create our reality. He continues, we are all artists. The mind is creating all the time. And as artists, the stories of our lives are our biggest creation. We live in the story that we created and feel that it is real. In order to create that story, we use what we believe is the truth. And of course, the truth is very particular to the individual because every single human has his or her own truth. That is the reason why we believe that we are right and everybody else is wrong. It's the only way it could be. I'm right, you're wrong. Diane Bishop, the interviewer, asked Ruiz, if each person is creating his or her own reality, then why do so many of us seem to be living in a state of suffering instead of grace? Ruiz's answer was simple. It's because we love conditionally. Hear his answer. It's because we love conditionally. We put conditions on who and how we love. Again, it goes back to do it my way or you're wrong. He continues, living in a state of grace to me is living in ongoing peace and unconditional love. Unconditional love is completely different from conditional love. It is a state of equilibrium between gratitude and generosity. Unconditional love is real love. When you live in, in that love, you live in inner peace. By feeling that love, you feel joyful and optimistic. You enjoy life without expecting anything and without a sense of obligation. You have gratitude for everything that you receive because creation is so generous and is always giving us what we need. When we have that awareness of gratitude, we act from generosity because we start to give away what we have received. We don't keep it. We don't use it. We give it. It's the whole cycle. We receive and we give. And it's unconditional love. Reeves believes that love becomes conditional when we have the need to control the outcomes. When we give, it's with conditions. If I give you a gift, I have some sort of expectation how you're going to use it, enjoy it, or whatever that has absolutely nothing to do with it. That's a conditional gift. And when I give you a gift, that is just a gift to you to use as you choose. And I have one for you this morning. then it's unconditional love. He goes on to say, as soon as we add conditions, it is not really love, but the opposite of love. As soon as we want to control, we lose freedom. Whether we control somebody else or allow somebody else to control us, we both lose freedom. Continuing, Ruiz says, unconditional love always begins with one's self. Did you hear what the man said? Always begins with one's self. You cannot give what you don't have. If I don't love myself unconditionally, I cannot love anybody else unconditionally. It's all got to start right here. And if I love myself conditionally, I can love another person unconditionally. Also, every single person is an artist. We are always creating. That love is always there if we perceive it. Without an awareness of love, we create life stories that are based on conditions. We love ourselves conditionally, and because of that, we're always searching for something we call perfection. We want to be perfect. But that condition that we're searching for is completely unreal. It only exists in the human mind because we do not have an awareness that we are already perfect, just as we are. Like everything else in the universe exists perfection. Everything that exists is perfect. The imperfection is not real. It only exists virtually in the human mind. He goes on to say, what I did in my particular way was to create the 4 agreements. The book is an introduction to the way of life of an artist. When we understand the stories that we create, including the creation of the main character, which is self, then we can change the main story if we want to change it. He did say, if we want to change it. The way to change the story is not to change the secondary characters in the story, but to change the main character, who we believe we are. That's the one that needs to change. If I change myself, then I am no longer what I used to believe I am. Just like magic, everything around me starts to change. The way I see my parents changes. The way I see my brothers, my sisters, changes. The way I see my beloved, my children, my work, my friends, the people I love, my habits, nature, society, everything changes because I changed. And I change not because I have to change, but because I want to. Because I want to change. Once I have that awareness, I see that everything I did before was because I didn't know the truth. I give myself a second chance. I love myself the way I am because my love for myself is unconditional. When I start loving myself unconditionally, then, just like magic, I start loving everyone around me in the same way. When I do that, I recover what I call respect. Because respect is the most important part of love. With true respect, I can keep my freedom. And I can respect everybody else's freedom. I recover my freedom because I no longer love with conditions, but with respect. So love with respect, and your whole life will change. Live this day like it was the last day of your life, but plan like you will live forever. You are no longer afraid of the future, even if it is unknown, because you make a choice according to what you like and do not like in your life. This is the way that you create a brand new story for yourself. End of quote. Are you creating a brand new story for yourself? There are some people at Unity of New Braunfels who are doing this on a huge scale. They are daring to make their dreams of their lifetimes manifest. And they're not all young folks, let me tell you. In order to make that leap of faith, they had to shift. They had to have a shift in consciousness. That's what the third step is about. The third principle is about. Reverend Ellen Davenport, in her book, The Five Principles, has some suggestions to do just that. And here's what she has to tell us how to go about it. The five principles provide steps to lead us from ego to soul, from living unconditionally to living in the awareness of truth. Truth is a spiritual law. It is creation at our service. Our work is to learn how to wield our spiritual tools in the human experience. The first four principles constitute a handy checklist before taking action. Number one, do I affirm divine intelligence and love in this situation? Number two, do I remember my own divinity and that of others involved? Number three, do I take responsibility for attracting this situation into my experience and know that its outcome for me will match my thoughts and feelings about it?
Repeat that third one, please.
The third one? Okay. Do I take responsibility for attracting this situation into my experience and know that its outcome for me will match my thoughts and feelings about it? Got it, Linda?
Thank you.
Fourth one, have I aligned myself with God, the universe, the good, and received guidance before I act? Any action that feels forced, impulsive, or emotional is likely not to be in principle. Acting in principle usually brings a reassuring sense of being on the right track. End quote. My original questions still stand. Are we using these principles in our daily lives, in our home, in our workplace, in our convenience stores, on I-35 when somebody cuts us off, or when traffic is at a dead stop? Are we living our lives from what we have been given? The knowledge and understanding of the spiritual laws that govern our lives. Are we walking our talk? Are we experiencing personal freedom to the level that we came here to experience? If not, why not? What needs to change? Is there a shift that needs to be made? So, beloved ones, as you ponder these things in your heart, remember always that you are God's beloved light in this world, and you illuminate every path wherever you go, bringing your good to every circumstance. And first and foremost, that you are never alone. Wherever you are, God is, and all is well. God loves you always, unconditionally. God bless you all. Namaste.
Namaste.
Thank you.